Welcome back. I know the video is very late. I was working on how to make the video super simple so that even if you're a beginner, you understand everything. So today we will see what scales and modes are. We will learn about the major scale and the Ionian mode. And in this series, we will see how you can use scales and modes to play, shred and use the whole fretboard of your guitar effectively. Hi, I'm Honeybee and welcome to my channel. So before beginning, if you are new here, I'd recommend you to start with the first video of this playlist. I've shared some patterns to practice on guitar and I'll be referring to those patterns in this video. Since there are a lot of things to discuss, I'll be breaking down the videos into parts and I'll try to keep the videos short and to the point. Let's start. So what is scale? So a scale is basically a sequence of notes separated by intervals or gaps. Now what does that mean? Let me show you. Alright, so let's start with intervals. So interval basically means the gap between two notes. So for example, the gap between two consecutive notes is known as half step. I'm denoting it with H. So the distance or the gap between A sharp and B is half step. The gap between A sharp and A is also half step. The gap between C and C sharp is also half step. Similarly, the gap between E to F is half step. Now two half steps make up one whole step. So if someone asks you what's the gap between A and B, instead of saying two half steps, you can say it's one whole step. So watch the pattern. In half step, we are not skipping any notes in between. In whole step, we are skipping one note in between. Now, let's take an example of the C major scale. So in C major scale, we are starting with the note C and the notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B and then again back to C. So what is the pattern here? The pattern is the gap between the notes. The gap between C and D is one whole step. We are skipping one note in between. The gap between D and E is one whole step. The gap between E and F is one half step. F to G whole step, G to A whole step, A to B whole step, and then again B to C. There is no note in between. If we write C here, it's half step. So I'm writing the half step here. So this is the gap pattern that we got for the C major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now this gap pattern is applicable for any major scale. For example, if we start with the D, the next note is one whole step away. Means we're going to skip D sharp and the next note is E. After E, the next note is one whole step away. Means we're going to skip F and the next note is F sharp. After F sharp, the next note is one half step away. Means the next note, which is G. After G, the next note is one whole step away. Means we're going to skip G sharp and the next note is A. Again, the next note is one whole step away. Means we're going to skip A sharp and the next note is B. After B, the next note is one whole step away. Means we're going to skip C and the next note is C sharp. And after C sharp, the next note is a half step away. Means the next note, which is D. So we started with D and ended with D, and this is the D major scale. So this is the gap pattern of the major scale. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Now the Ionian mode is same as the major scale. The Ionian mode also follows this gap pattern. So instead of saying C major scale, you can say it's C Ionian mode. Instead of D major scale, you can say it's D Ionian mode. So what's the difference between scales and modes? As we progress, you'll understand. For now, keep in mind that Ionian mode and major scales are the same. Okay, so now do you remember the very first practice pattern that I gave you in this series? If not, open the playlist that I've mentioned in the description and open the first video. The name of the video is Guitar Shredding Lesson Scales and Modes Part 1. Okay, so I'll give you a hint. There is a connection between that practice pattern and what we have discussed today. Can you find the connection? Anyway, I'll be explaining the connections, but I'll let you try first. Now, there are 7 modes in total: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. The 7 patterns that I've given you previously to practice on guitar are related to these 7 modes. Also remember, this gap pattern of the major scale or the Ionian mode is very important, and using this pattern we can derive and connect every other mode. As we progress, I'll be deep diving into each mode. Today we have learned a lot. You are progressing step by step every week. Okay, maybe not every week. I'm missing out videos. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so today was the introduction to scales and modes theory part, and we have learned about the Ionian mode and the major scale. I'll try to cover the rest of the modes and the connection between them in the next video. So that was it for today's video. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.